everybody, and welcome to another edition of Talk About Watches Live. My name is Tim, and it's our pleasure this evening to welcome Aggregate. Now, Aggregate is a young upstart brand hailing from the Bay Area of California. And I think it's one of the brands to watch in 2018. It literally combines concrete and steel. So think about this. We've all seen, obviously, the skyscrapers or whatever going up, right? Concrete and steel. Well, these guys figured out how to do this in a wristwatch. Now, some of you may have been participants or at least have seen the big intro thing we did a few weeks back, right? Well, tonight, they've agreed to repeat that special offer. So I'm excited to get into that. Before I do, just very quickly, if you haven't joined our email list, please do. It's a way to keep up with what we're creating on a daily basis, the specials and the discounts and so on. New brands coming to TAW. And we don't like spam either, so we're not going to spam you. We never sell or share the list, so you're safe with us. You can join, obviously, at talkaboutwatches.com. The other thing, again, at checkout, and it's on the final page of checkout, you'll have an option for PayPal credit. So if you're used to a kind of a 6-pay thing, and you'd like to carry things out for 6 months, with PayPal credit, there is no interest or payments at all for 6 months, and no interest if it's paid off by the due date. So it could be a very flexible and perfect way for you guys to take watches and make them even more affordable. So with all that stated, let's get underway and welcome Aggregate to Talk About Watches Live. As promised, Aggregate here live on the show. First of all, guys, congratulations on the premiere from a couple of weeks back. You guys had a great success, and a lot of people wearing your watches now through Talk About Watches. That's got to make you guys feel pretty good, I think.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And, we really appreciate you sharing our brand with your audience, Tim. We really like your show. Like, me and Mike checked you out, the other day. We really like the kind of like what you guys are talking about and kind of exposing these really cool brands. And we're just happy to be a part of it.
Well, that's one of the things that we try to hone in on with TAW pretty regularly is we're not looking for label slapping. We're looking for the guys that do either they reinvent or they bring out something cool or we find a great price opportunity on and so on. We don't want to just be another website. So thank you for that. Another thing I want to do here right at the front, obviously you're going to be new to a lot of people in the audience. Can you guys please just do a quick introduction for the both of you and a bit about your background?
Sure. Mike,
yeah, I can start. So my background is in mechanical engineering. I've been doing that for the last 12 years. I work in various fields, including military, vehicle design, business to business, enterprise products, as well as some consumer products in the past 2 years. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I've been my career in the last 12 years.
So, hey everyone, my name is John Ty. I'm the other co-founder, along here with Mike, of Aggregate Watches, and my background primarily is in industrial design, product design. So, I live and breathe design. I love it, and my background has been in design consulting, where I've worked with a number of really cool brands that you may have heard of, such as Sonos, Activision, Soul Republic, UBNT, a company called Revolve, which has now been acquired by Nest, among many others. And part of the reason why I bring that up is because, I just love design, and I kind of took that passion, and that's kind of how I linked up with Mike here, is we both have a passion for unique watches and kind of harness that creativity into this new brand where we're able to experiment with different materials and watches, and that's kind of how we created Aggregate.
First of all, guys, before we get into a bit about how Aggregate came to be, let's go over the special offer. First of all, Aggregate is allowing us to repeat the debut offer we did a few weeks back, which means you're at 30% off. And this is a very big deal because this brand usually doesn't offer more than 10% off of list. So there's going to be 4 colors available today. There's going to be the oat, which is the brown strap, the navy, the all black, obviously very popular. And then there is the runaway hit, which is the gray. Now, I want to emphasize the gray here just for a second because that is one that you guys currently don't allow a discount at all on, I believe.
Yeah, that is correct. We are fully stocked on the charcoal blacks, on the oat brown, as well as the Pacific navy. We are limited. We have limited quantities on hand, unfortunately, with the gravel gray. So for this special promotion, we're offering the 3 colors in black, navy, and tan.
And now, just to be clear, the gravel gray is available, but it's just going to be at full list.
Correct. It is available at this time.
Okay, so much like the premiere then. Well, one of the things I wanted to jump into And I will again very quickly mention, first of all, this discount is tremendous. But secondly, if you would like a payment option, just look for the PayPal credit at the final page of the checkout, and we'll take care of you there. But let's talk about, I guess, which is the obvious question. And well, actually, there's several. I want to start with, given the fact that you guys are younger, you're largely from a generation that really claims to not like wristwatches. They just rely on the smartphone. How did you guys take really, I guess, a big left turn from that and decide to create what I think is one of the most original watch ideas in the world right now?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can tackle this one. Yeah, I mean, to your point, we are a little bit of a, I guess, young. I mean, I still feel old, but we are a little bit of a young generation. Which, yeah, to your point, it's very technology based. You know, a lot of people are wearing Apple watches and smartwatches and such like that, and Fitbits and stuff like that. But you know, at the end of the day, as a designer, a lot of what we do is we pay a very close attention to human behavior and what consumer and users actually want. And to generalize like that whole generation, it's tough because there's actually a good amount of those people who actually still prefer traditional analog watches. Now, within that group, though, there's two different types of people. There's the types that like the legacy watches, your Breitlings, your really engineered movements and stuff like that. And then there's this other group, which Mike and myself fall into, which is, hey, we don't really care necessarily that it's a $4,000 watch made with super engineered movements, but what we do care about is that it looks great and that it makes us feel unique. And so for us, it was more about that. It was more about style. And so as designers, we were trying to think about, well, we had these watches, and it actually kind of stemmed from I used to collect this brand of wooden watch called WeWood.
Yeah, I know
also, some wooden sunglasses. And so for me, that was kind of like, that's my personal style. And Mike himself here, he collected a lot of like unique Nixon watches. And these are not super expensive watches or super expensive accessory items, but what they did offer was unique style. And so you can kind of grab from that and see how we wore these things from a behavioral perspective to kind of emote this difference in our style. We wanted to like feel that we're different. And so we're like, hey, you know what, like I've kind of been noticing this problem. Like me and Mike were looking at all these new micro watch brands coming out. We're not going to name specific names, but we as experienced designers, we knew that these guys, these young kids, were going over to China, grabbing watches and slapping a label on it and then calling it some new brand, when in reality it's nothing really different than all these other, I mean, you couldn't tell the one from the other.
I couldn't agree more with that, by the way.
And so we saw a problem here, right? And so a lot of times in tech, we're solving for, sound or speakers or routers and like, designing for, Internet of Things. And so we took that kind of thinking and we're like, how can we solve an emotional problem here, which is a user in the millennial generation wants to be different. They want to feel like what they are wearing is unique. And how do we do that in a field full of oversaturated watches that are all the same? Well, so we took a look at that and we're like, well, the watches that are coming out in the past, 3 to 5 years, I think the only novel idea that we've seen, from at least like from our style and style pool and kind of like where we're coming from on our perspective was the wooden watches. And so we kind of took a look at that and we're like, hey, like experimenting with materials could be something very unique, especially in the watch category, especially because it's so saturated. And so we started to think and we were brainstorming and we were like, man, we need to like pave our own path. We need to like carve our own way. And we just like kept thinking and brainstorming. That thought of paving our own path kept coming up. And we're like, you know what? Why don't we just take it literally? And we were like, what if we did something with concrete?
Yeah.
And so we're like, we started to explore the idea. And then Mike can kind of get into how he went over to different areas of the world to try to find manufacturers to do this for us, because that was a challenge because no one wanted to do this for us. You want to go ahead and get into that?
When John brought this challenge up to me, I was like, no, dude, this can't be done. And it's gonna chip, it'll crack, and it was quite challenging, I would have to say. And so that was part of the challenge, being concrete. The other part of the challenge was finding a supplier who would manufacture the parts. And so we spent a great amount of time, I would say at least 6 months, where I've traveled to China, to Taiwan, and not a single supplier would attempt the idea of a concrete watch.
Was that something that caught you guys off guard? Because one of the questions I had when I first came across this is why hasn't anyone else done it? Because it's one of the coolest ideas that I've encountered, especially in a relatively affordable watch. When you first hit the idea, how long did it take you to realize that no one else had done this, or did you already know? Did you know there was no concrete watches out there?
There were concrete watches out there, but none were mass produced. They were all made in house at very low quantities, and probably handcrafted by artisans.
Sure.
And we felt discouraged because of all the letdowns from all these various suppliers who would say, yeah, we could do it, but then after a while they tell us no, we're not interested in doing it anymore.
In the times I've been over to China to talk to brands, that's something that I've encountered repeatedly, is that a lot of factories that they will say yes to anything that you want initially.
And yes,
do you have a
yes.
tourbillon? Yes. Can I have it for $199? Yes. None of the above is actually correct, and so it sounds like that would have been a real source of frustration for you guys for a while.
Yeah.
I felt quite discouraged, and I thought that this wasn't going to happen, to be honest. I thought we were going to have to just quit and move on to the next idea, until I reached out to a family friend who had a connect with the factory, and we were able to work intimately with that factory and develop a formula in-house with them. They were open to trying, and that was our only line.
I have a question along those lines, which is they were open to trying, and given that it was sort of a family connection, was this something like, we don't think it's going to work, but we're going to throw you a solid kind of a thing, or did they actually see the possibility in your idea?
So Tim, check this out. So in that 6 months that Mike was going back and forth to all these different countries and trying to work with manufacturers, these factories would give us samples of marble watches or stone watches,
sure,
but none of them were concrete. And they're like, hey, it's concrete, right? And we're like, no, it's not. And so kind of to your point, it's like, everyone said they wanted to work on our project, but they didn't want to do it the way we wanted to. But us being designers and having done a lot of products that are mass produced today, not in the watch category, but just in other fields, we knew that we had to stay stringent with it, and we had to really press them hard in order to get what we wanted. And I think with Mike's luckily family connect, we pushed them for several months, flew over there and tried to teach them. Mike here is a mechanical engineer. He's definitely not a civil engineer who knew anything about concrete prior to this, but he researched so much, and literally I our company now relies on a lot of his formula mixes now for what we do with our proprietary concrete. And so he went over there and taught them a formula that he contrived over here himself in the States. And so that's kind of how we came up with it today. And so we had to do a lot of tweaking, and obviously the geometries of the watch being concrete made it tough to do certain things like the dial, to get it really thin. And then on top of that, no one was doing a concrete bezel. So we're like, hey, let's do that. Obviously, we know there's some risk because concrete is not metal. It can crack, it can wear down. But what we found through user research was that a lot of people were like, you know what, we love that because it patinas exactly like leather, right? It shows its time.
I hadn't even put that together, but you're right. Each watch then will actually age to become very unique for the wearer.
Exactly, and so that was kind of the thing. We don't pretend to be a super engineer where this is an invincible watch. What we want to do is be honest and say that yes, this is a unique watch specifically made for you, and over time it will represent all your memories and all your experiences because of all the wear and tear that will happen to your watch. So,
and I'm guessing that creating your own recipe, that just didn't happen in a single pass. I assume there was a lot of trial and error going on there.
Lots of trial and error. Not to mention the trial and error part, but the time it takes for concrete to fully cure and harden is roughly about a month, right? A month's time. And so, you go through the mixtures, but then you'd have to wait up to a month for the concrete to fully cure before you can even begin to test each.
Yeah, only to learn that you're not there yet.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then that was part of the challenge. The other challenge was in China, you kind of have to work with suppliers that our factory works with, and so the stuff that I wanted to source wasn't readily available, and if they were available in huge quantities by the tons, and we weren't working with those sizes, right?
Yeah, a lot of the challenges too is that, like, if we were a larger brand like Breitling or Fossil or Nixon or you name it, whoever, every company in every country, every manufacturer would want to talk to us. But it's like, John and Mike, who are you guys? We're aggregatewatches.com. We don't see it. We went to your website. It doesn't exist yet. I mean, it's like, being a startup, as a micro band, starting out, especially like bootstrap, like we have no VC funding. Both Mike and I came from pretty good tech jobs, which a lot of people thought we were crazy to leave. But like we just really believed in this idea, and so pushing it forward, yeah, there were a lot of ups and downs for sure. But I think pushing through that, like now we're able to kind of like see the fruits of our labor. But yeah, I mean, there's some times where me and Mike were just looking at each other, we're like, I don't know how we're gonna get this done.
So what was the epiphany? What was the moment where you're holding this product and you go, we've actually achieved that? Do you guys remember the moment?
So it was February
Yeah.
when we received our second set of prototypes, and at that time we were thinking, I think we're ready to go into production.
Yeah.
We had our first trial, our first prototype, which required a whole revamp, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, let me see if I can grab some of the old prototypes. Like,
Oh yeah, please do.
I'll see them here. But the first prototypes look nothing like the current watches that we have. We had the supplier. What they gave us was a silicone band with glitter in it.
Oh wow.
With nothing close to our design. As you imagine, working with overseas vendors, there's a lot that gets lost in translation, even though you have a lot of the control documents that you provide them with. Problem is they translate English to Chinese, and that stuff gets doesn't get translated well.
So being an industrial designer, a lot of times like people misunderstand and think that we just make pretty stuff and then hope that it sells. And actually, what we do is we actually do a lot of research prior to it to understand our users. And like most business startups, like we try to make sure that there is a market for it. And so we actually did a lot of surveying and a lot of user testing prior to actually having the prototype. And we did this by using a lot of renderings. And so renderings, I don't know if you're familiar, but basically they're digitized illustrations that make something look real. And so we use a lot of that to kind of like show it around, show it to different stores, even show it to different people who we thought were our target market. And but that being said, as we all know, like minimum order quantities for manufacturers, they are pretty costly, and for two guys who are bootstrapping, very, very expensive, especially with a new type of watch which required a lot of R&D.
I see you guys being one of the brands to watch in 2018, and certainly I want that, especially now that TAW has come on and you guys have partnered with us. But even if that wasn't the case, I think this is innovative. I mean, part of what attracts me, for example, is that you guys aren't overpricing this and you're not marking it up to mark it down. This is there's so much wristwatch here for dollar spent, and especially with this offer you guys did with TAW at 30 off. To me, this is a must-own. I think everybody should be snapping this up. For example, in this price point, there's very few brands that are offering the upgrade to Sapphire. Why did you guys do that versus the obvious, which is a mineral crystal?
People that actually wear wristwatches, they can really tell the difference between mineral and sapphire. And so as much as we could within our bootstrap budget, we wanted to give our customers, the best possible within the package that we could design. And so that's why we wanted to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to say that's something that when I started looking at your product before I contacted you, that just blew me away. It was, in fact, I actually triple checked it to make sure I wasn't somehow misinterpreting it. You guys were doing sapphire because for those of you who haven't noticed with our graphics, these retail at full bore. They're $189.99. I mean, this is still really affordable innovation, and that's before you get to the 30% that we're offering. My point is they're under $200 at full list. And you guys in the audience, you obviously know this. If you're under $200, almost invariably you're going to be looking at a mineral or K1 or whatever. So to get the sapphire upgrade, I think is a really big deal. So guys, one of the questions I have in the course of building this, we talk about, for example, that you guys at full list are under $200, yet you still offer the upgrade in the sapphire, which is one of the things that first blew me away. But then I start looking further, and this is concrete combined with steel. And knowing what I know about watch styles, it seems to me that the watch style must have been one of the challenges. I know you mentioned this earlier, to get it so thin. How did you guys end up being able to achieve that?
That was quite challenging as well. We're right at about 1.2 millimeters thick on the concrete. It does go through a series of polishing to get it down to that size. Um, the logo itself is laser etched to get the effect.
And let's talk about the bezel also, because I imagine that had to be, well, in fact, I know from your earlier statements, there's a lot of R&D that went into the creation of the bezel. If I understood you correctly, to your knowledge, nobody else had achieved the bezel.
Yeah, that's correct. There's actually a patent in place for the bezel. We have an internal metal ring that kind of serves as the reinforcement, as you would normally see in concrete. And so the metal ring also allows the concrete to be replaceable.
Well, one of the things that fascinated me about the finished product, the more I researched it, is you guys actually have an interchangeable strap system. So moving forward, we're going to see accessories obviously coming out. Can you talk a little bit about how one goes about changing the strap on their aggregate?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually wearing a newer strap from one of our partners. We're partnering with a patina artist.
To the camera.
We're partnering with a patina artist to do some really cool leather straps, as well as we have some non-leather straps coming out as well.
Oh, nice.
But we knew that, pending, as a startup, we didn't know how far this was going to, but obviously we wanted to plan, for success. And so we were like, well, we want to provide, all these different users with unique interchangeable straps. And so we designed our own like watch system where what you do is you unscrew the back, and then the watch strap has a feature on it which nests into the back of the watch, and you can basically take that and interchange with any strap that we're going to be able to provide in the near future. And so that's basically going to allow our users to, if you like navy but you want the PVD black case and the black dial black bezel watch, then you can go ahead and do that. You can swap that out and put that in. Or when we eventually offer some and I can't say exactly like what we're going to offer strap wise, but when those new straps do come out, you're able to then swap those out as well. Summer.
And we're all collectively looking forward to that. If you guys across the audience, if you haven't yet joined the TAW email list, you absolutely should. We'll keep you updated as Aggregate continues to expand, including the accessories. And with our email list, you never get spammed. You're safe with us, so please do. Guys, I'd like to ask for final thoughts, if we could, and we'll wrap this up.
I mean, for me, I think, we obviously know that Aggregate watches is not for everyone, and we understand that. But the customers that we did design this for, we think you guys will love it. It's a very unique watch. I don't think anyone out there, like especially in the States, no one has really even seen a concrete watch before. So, like once you put it on, I think you'll get a lot of looks. You'll get a lot of compliments. We do, and a lot of people are just asking, hey, what's that? Like, what's that made out of? And if that's what you're looking for, something unique, something that's well designed and actually designed by designers and not just a name stamped on something from China. I think we're the watch brand for you. As well as we have a lot of other things cooking in the kitchen. We're going to be offering more watches, possibly mechanical, automatic movements and stuff like that. A little more higher end stuff. We just got started, so things will be coming in the near future.
Yeah, do look out for possibly an automatic watch in the future.
Nobody, including me, mentioned this, but you guys are based here in the United States, so this is a USA-based concept wristwatch.
Yeah, and so that's the one thing we wanted to make very clear. Like, we're both Asian American, obviously, but grew up here in the Bay. Like, I grew up here in the Bay Area. Mike from Hawaii. We're proud to be American. We're proud to design this in California. We're in one of the largest tech hubs where all the best design firms, are here residing in the Bay Area. And I think like to be part of that community and then launch a product of our own, it's been, we're just humbled to be able to be part of that. And I think, the innovation is always going to be there, but innovation in very traditional settings such as wristwatches is very hard to do. And so that's what we're trying to do, and we hopefully, people can see that vision and, they'll buy into this as well.
Well, I want to thank you guys for being on the show. I'll wrap things up. For everybody in the audience, if you are watching us in the actual live original presentation, you've got about roughly 72 hours on this. If you caught us in one of the reruns, obviously time is ticking. Again, a quick reminder, if you're ordering either the oat or the navy or the black, that is at 30% off, exclusive to TAW here for the next couple of days. If you're ordering the gray, that is going out at full retail because, frankly, they're already almost sold out of it. And actually, I think it was kind of fair since they're selling it at full retail. Anyway, the option was either don't offer it at all or at least make it available to you guys. So we are making that available, and it looks like it'll be gone in the not too distant future. John, Mike, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate that, and we look forward to having you back again soon.
Thank
so you,
much,
Tim, for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. It was great. So.
And thank you, everybody across the United States, and we'll see you back here very soon on Talk About Watches Live.